So, for example 3, we have 3x plus 4 square root of x minus 2. What do we really want here? We don't want x, we want x squared. So I'm going to say that x is equal to y squared. If I take the square root of both of those, I get the square root of x equals y. So these are the two things that I'm substituting here. Yes?
Did you also just like square like 3x squared?
This whole trinomial?
Yeah.
You could, but it would get messy. But yeah, yeah. But because you'd have a trinomial times a trinomial. So you'd have 9 terms instead of 6. And yeah. Okay. So for this x here, we're going to substitute in y squared. And for the square root of x, we're going to substitute in y. And then just write the minus 2 equals 0. Okay. Now, oh, sorry, that should be y, not x, sorry. Okay. So always look for a GCF. See if it's easily factorable, or if you could do slip and slide. I'm going to use the quadratic formula on it. So I'm going to look for the a, the b, and the c. So the a is 3, the b is 4, and c is -2. All right. So instead of saying y equals, or instead of saying x equals, I'm going to say y equals the opposite of b, which is -4, plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 3 times -2, all over 2 times 3. So you're just going to plug in all the coefficients for a, b, and c, and all your variables should be gone, right? Just like I told you yesterday. First step, just plug everything in correctly in the right spot. Then after that, then start to simplify, okay? So y is going to be equal to -4 plus or minus, and then under that square root, 4 squared is 16. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times -2 is -24. But it's minus -24, so I'm going to say plus 24. All over 6. The next thing I see I can simplify is under that radical, right? What's 16 plus 24? 40. So we have -4 plus or minus the square root of 40 over 6. Is 40 a perfect square? No. But does it have perfect square factors? Yes. So if you want to factor it, you can do your little factor tree, but I think most of you are at the point where you recognize this is 4 times 10, right? So the square root of 4 is 2, so this is 2 rad 10, okay? So we're going to say y equals -4 plus or minus 2 rad 10 over 6. And then what do you notice about these three numbers? Divide them all by 2, right? So this is -2 plus or minus the square root of 10 over 6. Sorry, 3. Okay? This is how I prefer the answer. But we haven't substituted back in yet, right? Remember at the beginning, we used y squared for x, and we used y for the square root of x. Okay? So we have to substitute back in. So I'm going to use this one right here, where x is equal to y squared. So I'm going to take this part of it, and I'm actually going to calculate it out with my calculator. And I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, because this is going to be, because square root of 10 is not a perfect square, right? So it's going to be a decimal, okay? So because of the plus minus, there's actually 2 of them. So there's -2 plus the square root of 10 over 3, and there's -10 minus the square root of 10 over 3. So let me show you how to plug this into the calculator. And sometimes it's hard because I get this weird glare. Let me see if I can do it without the glare. All right, so I'm going to take the square root of 10 first. Square root of 10 Then I'm going to subtract that 2 right there. I'm going to divide by 3. And I want to round to the nearest hundredths. So after the decimal, I 0.38, but there's a 7 next to it, so I round up. This is roughly, or approximately, 0.39. We see that? Okay. This one's a little trickier because it has a negative sign out front. So I'm going to say the opposite of the square root of 10 minus the 2, divided by 3. I've got approximately negative 1.72, but there's a 0 next to it, so it stays. Okay? These are our y's. So we want to square them. If you look back up here, we want to square the y to figure out what x is. So I'm going to take this number and square it, take this number and square it. This one's, well, I'll clear it because I want closer decimals. 0.39 squared. So x is roughly 0.15, and there's a 2 next to it, so it stays. Oops, sorry. Sorry, and there's a glare. And then this one, because it's negative, you're going to want to put it in parentheses. Negative 1.72. Square it. So this one is roughly 2.95, but there's an 8 next to it, so it rounds up to 6. Okay? Number 3 gets messy, and like the last 2 or 3 problems in the book will get messy. All right? If you need some help when you get to those, let me know.